Ever feel like going to the doctor is like playing musical chairs? You just keep getting bounced around to different specialists, and by the end, you were even more confused than when you started.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Sometimes having more opinions just makes things more complicated, not clearer, especially when it comes to your health.
And that's what we're diving into today, those potential downsides of seeing multiple doctors for, the same health issue.
And what's interesting here is that we're not saying second opinions are bad. Like in really complex medical cases, getting a second opinion or even a third can be really important.
Definitely. But it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that more opinions automatically equal better care. And what we're hearing from you all is that's not always the case.
Exactly. The feedback we've got suggests that seeing a bunch of different doctors, but within the same specialty, can actually make things more complicated, not less.
Right. Like, if you've got 5 cardiologists who all have slightly different approaches to, say, high blood pressure, it's enough to make your head spin. So let's unpack why that is. One of the big things the feedback points to is conflicting recommendations.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? I mean, doctors are people too, and they're all trained a little differently. They have different experiences, different philosophies about treatment, so it's natural that they might not always see eye to eye on the best course of action.
It's not always a clear-cut right or wrong. Sometimes it's just about different schools of thought, or even how research and technology have evolved.
Exactly. For example, one cardiologist might be really gung-ho about the latest medications, while another might be more focused on lifestyle changes like diet and exercise.
And both could be valid approaches, right?
Absolutely. But for the person caught in the middle, it's incredibly confusing. One doctor is saying, go for a run, and the other is saying, don't even think about lifting anything heavier than a teacup.
Talk about a recipe for anxiety. And I imagine all that uncertainty can lead to even more doctor visits, more tests, and potentially even increase the risk of something going wrong, right?
You hit the nail on the head. When you've got multiple doctors all prescribing medications or treatments without a full picture of your medical history, the chances of something going wrong skyrocket. Duplicate tests, conflicting medications, even overdoses.
And let's be real, the financial burden of all those extra tests and appointments can be a nightmare too.
Absolutely.
It's a lot to juggle, especially when you're already feeling unwell and just want some clear answers. And I think this actually ties into that final point the feedback brings up, how seeing too many doctors can erode the trust you have in your doctor-patient relationship.
Which is so important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't trust your doctor, it's really, really hard to believe in their recommendations and follow their advice.
It's like any relationship, right? Open communication and trust are absolutely essential. For example, I remember when I was struggling with this awful back pain, and I was seeing all these different specialists, but none of them seemed to be really listening to me. And then I found this doctor who took the time to really hear me out, to understand my concerns, and it made all the difference.
I can see why. That feeling of being heard and understood can make all the difference.
Right. And that's something that can get lost when you're constantly being shuffled from one doctor to the next.
Yeah, you can feel like a medical record on legs instead of a person.
So where does this leave us? Is there a magic number? Like, is one doctor always enough? Are 2 doctors too many? What's the sweet spot here?
If only it were that simple. Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer, right? It really depends on your specific situation and needs. But I think the key takeaway here is see as many doctors as necessary, but not more.
Right, as many as necessary.
Yeah, having a primary care physician who can kind of act as your quarterback and coordinate your care is huge. And if you do need to see specialists, it's really important to make sure they're all on the same page, communicating with each other and sharing information.
And that's where advocating for yourself comes in, right? Bringing all your medical records to appointments, not being afraid to ask questions, and making sure you understand the treatment plan and why each doctor is recommending what they're recommending.
100%.
This has been really insightful. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt pressured to seek multiple opinions? Or maybe you've had an experience where seeing more than one doctor actually made things better and helped you find the right path for your health. Share your story.
As you're thinking about your own healthcare experiences, here's a really important question to ponder. How can we all become more informed healthcare consumers? How can we learn to ask the right questions, understand our options, and really take control of our own health journeys?
That's something to think about.